This is Goals with Soul, the podcast for visionary coaches and entrepreneurs, building your business with inspired action. In alignment with your mission and authentic message, so you can create impact for your soul clients and feel lit up every day. I'm your host, Jo Ingram, married mum of 3 daughters from London and a former ad agency director turned business coach and strategist. In Goals with Soul, we blend revenue generation with energetics, marketing strategies with pranic healing, and ambitious business goals with our soul's desires. If you're looking to build your business with less efforting and more ease, this is the podcast for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to Goals with Soul. I'm Joanna Ingram, and today I'm talking about turning disappointment into direction. When it comes to disappointment, I have owned that emotion throughout my life, always feeling like I wasn't doing the best that I could do or feeling like the results weren't quite perfect. Let's be honest, it's a overspill from that perfectionism and imposter syndrome that shows up so frequently for high achieving women. And disappointment is one of the most toxic emotions we can feel, not least because it always leaves us with a lack of appreciation. We're just not celebrating our successes. And so today we're going to talk a little bit more about how we can transmute that disappointment into our direction. Because when you get stuck in disappointment, you really are vibing well off with the universe. The signal that you're putting out there is just telling the universe you want more disappointment. And funnily enough, it seems to be just what you get. I know that when I started out in my business, before I went through that burnout stage, about 6-8 months in, I kept showing up doing the thing. I was launching program after program. I was showing up in social media every single day. And behind it all was an expectation of what would happen if I show up every day, if I launch a program, if I just don't stop and keep pushing, then I will get the results that I had in my mind, the income results, the impact results, the things that are going to make me feel like I've made it. And of course, I wasn't getting those signs and signals showing up. I was getting mediocre results, just enough to show that I was putting some work in, but not enough to make me feel like I was smashing it, nailing it. This was flying. I wasn't feeling great. Quite the opposite, actually. I was feeling really overwhelmed, really frustrated, and of course, disappointed. And it's interesting because in my group program this week, it came up for, 2-3 women on the call were all in this phase of disappointment for one reason or another, feeling like they weren't making enough progress, feeling that things hadn't quite turned a corner for them. And it's an interesting thing because I know that some of these women have turned amazing corners. If we look back 3 months or 6 months, the distance they've come is tremendous, but they are not appreciating that in themselves. Like me, of course, we attract clients like ourselves when we're in that right energy, clients that we're best placed to resonate with and to help. Like me, they also are going through a journey of learning to appreciate the progress and not get stuck in feelings of disappointment. And I have realized that as I've been a student of the law of attraction and enjoyed talking about it more and more here on the podcast, I think to myself, what is this disappointment here to teach us? How can we transmute it into direction for our business? Instead of getting stuck in that emotion and getting stuck in feeling like things just never going to change, how can we actually take what's happening in that moment and create an elevation in how we feel first, in the thoughts that we have, followed by the actions that we take, and of course, the results that we see. And it occurs to me that the disappointment is actually a sign of contrast. And contrast in the law of attraction, of course, is just when we notice and acknowledge something happen in our reality, in our environment, that is not something we desire. And this information is incredibly valuable. It gives us an opportunity to actually be grateful for the things that we don't like that are showing up, the things that are causing us to feel disappointment. To actually look around and say, I don't like this showing up in my life. This is contrast. And contrast means that there's an opposite that I do desire. Oftentimes, contrast actually gives us clarity. It actually lets us see more about what is in our vortex, what should be on our vision board, more about how we don't want to work, more about how we'd like things to be. For me, that was absolutely the case when I ended up in burnout. And there was one memorable day where I was lying on the kitchen floor, like floods of tears, just sort of sat there, but actually back against the fridge, just sobbing, saying to my husband, this isn't working. This isn't why I've chosen this path and to leave corporate for good. What am I doing wrong? Of course, asking a terrible question isn't going to give you a fantastic answer. But realizing that what had been going wrong was the way I was pushing myself, the way I had such ridiculously high expectations of everything I was doing. I was blocking the flow energy. I wasn't enjoying myself. I was working long hours instead of already leaning in to living the life that was in my vortex, a life of freedom and choice. And so that gave me the opportunity to lean into that contrast and observe that I'm now understanding that I don't want a multiple six-figure business at any cost. I didn't want it at a cost to my relationships, a cost to my health, to my happiness. I wanted all of that, absolutely validly, but I wanted to do it with a lot more flow and a lot more ease. And then suddenly new ideas came to me, realizing that I wanted to bring breath work or my pranic healing experience into what I teach, realizing that my message to share is about building businesses, but also about bringing spirituality into it. In fact, that was probably the turning point that allowed me to then go on to create the Messaging Edge and Time to Rise and the programs that I've launched, my framework that has gone on to help other coaches to express their brilliance in their business and move away from the things that weren't lighting them up. And that's contrast. So where in your life are you disappointed? Where in your life is there an opportunity to see the contrast? And for perhaps the first time, acknowledge what isn't working for you and what you desire more. And sometimes these can be small and sometimes these can be enormous breakthroughs. And that contrast gives you the desire. It gives you clarity on what exactly you want things to look like, what's really in your vortex, that magical place where your visions already exist. But we have to bring them through into our 3D reality, into creation. And one of the first ways of doing that is this contrast. So if you've been feeling disappointed, I just want you to take a deep breath because I'm going to do it right now because, God, it's good to know that I now have the information. I now understand that something has been in the opposite direction to what I really desire and what's really on my heart. And now I have the clarity, I have the opportunity to transmute disappointment into direction. And if you want a journal prompt, write on this. Write down that now I know what I don't like, fill in the gap. I know now that what I do like and what I do desire is, and fill in the gap. And obviously that's the opposite of what you now realize you don't like, because it's causing disappointment, frustration, overwhelm. Perhaps it's gone further than just feelings. Perhaps it's also showing up as creating a lack of sales, creating a misalignment with unenergizing clients, or anything in your business that isn't really feeling energetic and full and is causing disappointment. Observe it. Ask yourself, is this really aligned with what I always wanted to create? Is it aligned with what I now know I want to create? And if it's not, this podcast is a sign and signal for you that it's an opportunity to let go of the things that are no longer serving you, whether that's an emotion or even a whole program. I've let programs go in the past that took a lot of energy and effort to create and to sell and to implement. But I've known almost at the first or second session as I'm implementing that this is already chewed up chewing gum. For those fans of Abraham Hicks out there, they often talk about how when you have a desire and it comes into your creation, comes into your reality, all the juice is already gone because so much of the excitement is in the anticipation and the creation. So when it's actually there for you, it's kind of not that juicy anymore. And I understand this so well because, of course, that's what causes the disappointment if we're not aware of that. Because we desire something, we take inspired action, we create it, and then it's here, it's dropped in, it's in your reality. And instead of taking a moment to feel full, unabashed joy and gratitude, we've already moved on. We're already going, okay, that's great, but what about this? Because there's obviously always something else we're working on. And I'm trying now to just be grounded. And when something good happens and some success, something drops into my reality, just to take a moment of celebration, a moment of acknowledgement. And I'm going to use a word that I've found difficult to use in the past, but pride, a moment of pride. I think I've always felt that pride comes before the fall and very negative connotations. But I'm working with an energetic alignment coach at the moment. My next level of investment, my next level of increasing my capacity to hold space for my clients and create my desired reality. And the word pride came up, and I realized that actually deep within me, my little girl, she wants to feel proud. She wants others to feel proud of her. You know, I had the whole achievement wound piece, firstborn, first person in my whole family to go to college, and you know, wanting my mother's pride and wanting my grandmother to be proud of me. And I've imbued that as an adult too. I feel like I want to feel proud. So now understanding that that's emotion that drives me, why not live it more? Why not feel proud more? Instead of quashing the emotion of pride because of some of the negative stuff that comes up around it, to understand that that's a really valid emotion and I can give it to myself. I don't need external validation, and neither do you. You don't need me or anybody else to give you permission to be great, to shine your brilliance. You simply need to be you. And when good things happen, no matter how small, if pride is something that you enjoy too, or any other emotion, take a moment just to feel it. Because the contrast has created the opportunities for you to see what you really desire, and then it's happened. And that piece about transmuting desire into direction is about taking inspired action. Once it's clear and you have the clarity about exactly what you do want, it gives the power back to you. It gives you the power to make choices about the action that you take. And sometimes that action is getting away from your computer and going for a beautiful nature walk. I mean, I'm actually recording this podcast from having just hopped off my bike. I've been to yoga, 8 a.m. morning session. Sun is shining. It's a beautiful autumn day. I'm like, you know what? This is inspiration. This is where our power comes from doing what feels good in the moment and showing up. This episode epitomizes for me inspired action. What is inspired action like for you? What is it that you can create effortlessly when you've allowed yourself to just follow the direction from your intuition? Whatever the joy is in the moment, that appreciation, taking a little peek at that email that did actually make you feel good, that little message or testimonial, or a voicemail from a loved one, or a picture that gives you joy, or a pet you love to spend time with, or hanging out with your kids and just doing nothing, and watching TikToks, which is what I do with my twins. We love watching TikToks. It's so bonding. And at first I judged myself, like I shouldn't be giving them more screen time, but that's another subject. The point is lean in to what lights you up. Find what's causing disappointment. Recognize and acknowledge the contrast. Understand the direction and the vision and the desires that it takes you in, and then take that step into inspired action that takes you a step closer. And when you get there, even a tiny baby step, appreciate, acknowledge, and celebrate. And so I've been quietly celebrating the launch of the Messaging Edge, my new container for established coaches who want to elevate and integrate their next level brilliance and messaging into their business, their content, and their offers. The response I've been getting to this program has been humbling and overwhelming. And it's been an opportunity for me to look inwards and feel that gratitude and appreciation for following those breadcrumbs and understanding that some things were going to drop away while other things would elevate. If you want to know a little bit more about my work and you haven't yet downloaded my free messaging checklist for coaches, you can find the link to that inside the show notes and learn about the 4 essential steps to create authentic and unique messaging that will attract your soul clients. And so to your inspired action this week. Take care. Bye now. And if you are enjoying listening to Goals with Soul, I would be so grateful if you could click the follow button on your Apple Podcast app and leave a 5-star review. Your subscribes and reviews are directly related to us reaching more people with our message. And from me and the team here at Goals with Soul, thank you so much.